The Cleveland Browns just made it official, and the entire NFL needs to pay attention because what Kevin Stefanski announced on Monday afternoon isn't just about one more start. This is about a franchise finally admitting they might have found something real. After years of quarterback chaos, after decades of false hope and broken promises, Shedeur Sanders is getting another shot. And the way this decision went down tells you everything you need to know about what's really happening inside that building. Kevin Stefanski stood at the podium Monday and made it crystal clear Shedeur Sanders is starting again this Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. Not Dylan Gabriel, not the guy who was healthy and cleared from concussion protocol. The rookie who just won his first NFL start with only 1 week of practice is getting the ball again. And for a franchise that's been trapped in quarterback purgatory for 25 years, that clarity alone feels revolutionary. The number one job of a quarterback is to win. That's what Stefanski said. So excited to get that first win under his belt. And the next thing is improvement. That's what young players do, especially young quarterbacks. You get one game better, and that's just from working at it. Translation? Shedeur did enough in 1 week to earn another chance. Now he has to prove it wasn't a 1 week fluke. But here's what most people aren't talking about. The way Stefanski delivered that message, the confidence in his voice, the lack of hedging, that was different. That was a coach who finally saw something he couldn't ignore anymore. Let's back up for a second because the context here matters. Before Sunday's game against the Raiders, the narrative around Shedeur was brutal. People were saying he wasn't ready. Analysts were questioning why he fell to the 5th round. Critics were pointing to his 47-yard, 4 for 16 performance in relief against Baltimore as proof he couldn't handle NFL speed. Even respected voices were defending Stefanski's decision to keep him buried on the depth chart without first-team reps. Dan Orlovsky went on ESPN and said it's more common than people anticipate for backup quarterbacks to go weeks or even months without practice reps with the starters. He tried to normalize the situation. But here's the problem with that take. Orlovsky was a seasoned veteran backup who was there specifically because he didn't need those reps. He was an emergency option who could be thrown in if something went wrong. Shedeur Sanders is a rookie who'd never taken an NFL snap. The comparison doesn't hold up. This wasn't about managing a veteran backup. This was about developing a young quarterback the organization spent a draft pick on. And for 11 weeks, they didn't do it. Shedeur was running the scout team. He was essentially being treated like a practice squad body whose job was to simulate opposing defenses for the actual starters to prepare against. And when people started asking questions about that, the responses were defensive and dismissive. How is the offensive line not hurting if he's running scout team? Good question. Maybe he's not actually getting meaningful reps at all. Maybe he's just out there going through the motions while Dylan Gabriel gets all the real preparation. That's what it looked like for months. A 5th-round pick with first-round talent being wasted because the coaching staff didn't believe in him or didn't want to admit they should have started him sooner. But then Sunday happened, and everything changed. Shedeur Sanders walked into Las Vegas for his first NFL start and did something no Browns rookie quarterback had done since Eric Zaire in 1995. He won 11 completions on 20 attempts, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. On paper, that's solid but unspectacular. In context, it was seismic. He became the first Browns rookie quarterback to win his debut in almost 30 years. He snapped a brutal 17-game losing streak in games where Cleveland started a quarterback making his first career start. For a franchise that cycled through 42 different starting quarterbacks since 1999, that matters. That's not just a stat. That's breaking a curse. But the box score doesn't tell the whole story. The film does, and so does the reaction from his teammates. Myles Garrett, the Browns' superstar defensive end, was watching from the sideline when Shedeur rolled out to his right, avoided the blitz, and launched a 52-yard laser to Isaiah Bond for a touchdown. Garrett's reaction said everything. He looked up at the Jumbotron with his mouth open like he couldn't believe what he just saw. After the game, reporters asked him about that play, and Garrett didn't hold back. There's not many guys in the league that can make that throw. That was a hell of a throw. I hope he can continue to grow and develop for making plays like that. Think about that for a second. Your defensive captain, one of the best players in the entire NFL, is geeking out over your rookie quarterback's arm talent. That's not generic praise. That's genuine shock and excitement. That's Myles Garrett saying, I ain't seen nothing like this before. At minimum, I've forgotten ever seeing it before, and I need to see it again. Emmanuel Acho broke it down perfectly. When a defensive player takes time during his break to look up at the offense and react like that, you know something special just happened, because usually the Browns' offense is rarely on the field long enough for defenders to even catch their breath. But Shedeur made a throw so good that Myles Garrett couldn't look away. And it wasn't just that one throw. Shedeur completed a swing pass to Dylan Sampson that turned into a 66-yard touchdown. His first NFL touchdown pass officially went down as a screen 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, but once Sampson caught it in stride and knifed through the Raiders' defense, it became clear this offense had finally woken up. Critics can call that catch-and-run fool's gold if they want. In the quarterback meeting room, it's evidence that Shedeur can get the ball out on time in space and let his playmakers cook. That's something Cleveland's offense desperately needed. And it could have been even bigger. Jerry Jeudy fumbled on what should have been another explosive catch and run off a rollout. If that play stands, Shedeur probably finishes with over 250 yards and another scoring drive. The advanced analytics crowd can strip the long plays out of his stat line all they want. Inside the building, the Browns saw potential. They saw a quarterback who wasn't afraid to push the ball downfield in ways Dillon Gabriel simply couldn't or wouldn't. They saw poise, pocket presence, and playmaking ability that had been missing all season. Kevin Stefanski acknowledged exactly that in his Monday press conference. The big plays downfield, he said, pinpointing what separated Sunday's version of Cleveland's offense from the one fans had grown numb to. Obviously, the ball to Bond was very, very high degree of difficulty. Are there things he can do better? Absolutely. We've already talked about that with him. But he has the mentality to make adjustments to the speed of the game and to what people are giving us. That's coach speak for this kid, has something we haven't seen in a while. But here's where the controversy comes in. After that historic win, after Shedeur became the first Browns rookie quarterback in 30 years to win his debut, Kevin Stefanski was asked the obvious question, is Shedeur your starter moving forward? And instead of giving a straight answer, instead of showing his rookie quarterback the support and confidence he deserved, Stefanski hedged. I'm not going to get into that, he said. Proud of him and proud of this offense. There are a ton of things to learn from, but I'm just going to wear it out today. Let that sink in. Your rookie quarterback just made franchise history. Your defensive captain is raving about his arm talent. Your entire fan base is buzzing with excitement for the first time in years, and you can't even commit to starting him again? Compare that to how Stefanski handled Dillon Gabriel. Every single week when Gabriel was struggling, when the offense looked lifeless, when they were losing games, reporters would ask, is Dillon still your starter? And Stefanski's response was always immediate and definitive. Yeah, he's still our starter. No hesitation. No, we'll see. Just full-throated support, even when Gabriel didn't deserve it. But now, when Shedeur earns a win, suddenly Stefanski wants to worry about cleaning things up and not making any decisions. That's weak. That's inconsistent. That's showing everyone watching that you still don't fully believe in the kid, even after he proved you wrong. And people noticed. Emmanuel Acho went off about it. You wanted to worry about it then, but now when Shedeur gets a good win, you don't want to worry about it. That's messed up. They got to get rid of him because he's sabotaging this kid. The rest of the team is not going to want to follow that man. They're not going to want to follow him. They got to get him out of here this year. Point blank, period. And you know what? Acho's right, because leadership isn't just about making the right football decisions. It's about showing your players you believe in them. It's about creating an environment where young guys can thrive without constantly wondering if their coach has their back. When J.J. McCarthy won that comeback game for the Vikings against Chicago, his head coach celebrated him like he just won the Super Bowl. You would have thought McCarthy cured cancer based on how his coach hyped him up in the locker room. That's how you build a young quarterback's confidence. That's how you create a winning culture. Kevin Stefanski did the exact opposite, and everyone in that building felt it. But here's the thing. Despite Stefanski's lukewarm public support, he still made the right decision. Dillon Gabriel cleared concussion protocol. He was medically able to play, and Stefanski kept Shedeur as the starter anyway. On Monday, he made it official. Shedeur Sanders is quarterback one against the 49ers this Sunday. That announcement, that clarity, it matters because for the first time in a long time, The Browns aren't playing games with their quarterback situation. They're not hedging. They're not splitting reps. They're giving their most talented option a real chance to prove himself. What made the decision even more significant is what it means for Dillon Gabriel. Gabriel opened the season as the starter. He put up respectable numbers on paper, 59.2% completions, 937 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions across 8 games and 6 starts. But the record tells the other half of the story. The Browns went 1-4 in the 5 games Gabriel started before his injury. The offense was methodical, limited, and too often stuck in the mud. They couldn't score points. They couldn't make explosive plays. They couldn't win games. By sticking with Shedeur, even with Gabriel healthy, Stefanski made something clear. This isn't a charity start. This is an evaluation, and they're not going to waste it. When asked if Shedeur's status would be a week-to-week decision, Stefanski refused to look too far ahead. I'm just going to focus on this week, not going to get much past this week. That's classic coach speak on the surface. Beneath it is a franchise quietly acknowledging what everyone can see. With a 3-8 record and the playoffs a long shot, the Browns can't afford not to find out what they truly have in Shedeur Sanders. Every snap he takes is a data point in their never-ending search for stability under center. Every throw, every decision, every win or loss gives them information they'll need when evaluating their quarterback room in the offseason. The quarterback drama in Cleveland isn't just local anymore. It's national. Even before his first start, Shedeur was one of the NFL's most polarizing rookies. His slide to the 5th round stunned draft analysts who had projected him as a top-tier quarterback prospect. His last name and everything that comes with being the son of Deion Sanders magnified every snap, every throw, every opinion. When the Browns finally handed him a start and he walked off the field 1-0, the takes poured in. Among the loudest voices was former President Donald Trump, who had loudly questioned the league when Shedeur fell down the draft board in April. After his debut win, Trump took a victory lap on Truth Social, praising the rookie and declaring, "I told you so." Whether you love or hate Trump, one thing is clear. Shedeur's journey is being watched by people far beyond Cleveland sports radio. Every throw is now a referendum for those who believed in him, those who doubted him, and those who see his last name before they see his tape. And Shedeur, for his part, hasn't shrunk from the spotlight. After the Raiders game, he addressed the narrative that he'd been buried on the depth chart and starved of reps. Everybody starts in different places. Just because I didn't get the summer reps, just because I wasn't in the best situation for me to be prepared, that's how life is. Everybody's not in the best situation, but it's no excuse. You got to go out there and perform. There's no choice. And then he delivered the line that's already started to define his rookie season. A lot of people want to see me fail. Eyes locked in, voice steady. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. That confidence, that edge, it resonated inside the Browns locker room. Teammates saw a rookie who didn't flinch behind a patchwork offensive line, who stayed calm while a 10-sack defensive performance suffocated the Raiders on the other side of the ball, who didn't turn a rare opportunity into a nervous meltdown. They saw someone who played like he'd been there before, even though he'd only had 1 week of practice with the starters. And for the fans in the dog pound used to quarterbacks who come and go like gusts off Lake Erie, the idea of a young passer with confidence, a downfield arm, and a little bit of swagger feels like something worth leaning into, even if it ends in disappointment, even if he struggles down the stretch, because at least it's something different, at least it's hope. That's what makes this second start so significant. Sunday against Las Vegas was the prologue. This weekend against the San Francisco 49ers, that's the first real chapter. And let's be real, the 49ers are not the Raiders. They bring a vicious pass rush, complex coverages, and a defensive front that punishes hesitation. If the Raiders were a soft measuring stick, San Francisco is the stress test. The kind of game where the pocket collapses faster, the reads have to speed up, and mistakes get turned into points in a hurry. Either Shedeur will rise with another week of first-team reps and a game plan built fully around his strengths, or the league will punch back and force Cleveland to confront harsh truths. The Browns know it. Shedeur knows it. Stefanski knows it. To win is crazy. It's amazing, Shedeur told CBS after the game in Las Vegas. After 1 week of practice, you know what I mean? This was 1 week of practice, so imagine what a full off-season looks like. It gets dangerous. For now, the Browns don't need the full off-season. They need to see what one more week looks like, then another. then maybe a stretch of games that tells them whether Shedeur is more than a good story in a lost season. The stakes go far beyond a single Sunday. Every snap Shedeur takes against the 49ers is a data point in the Browns' never-ending search for stability under center. Cleveland's front office will eventually have to compare his body of work to Gabriel's, weigh them both against the possibility of adding a veteran, and then decide how aggressively to pursue another rookie in the 2026 NFL Draft. If Shedeur continues to flash that deep ball touch, that calm in the pocket, and that edge in front of the microphone, he can change that calculus entirely. If he struggles, he still gives the organization something Gabriel never quite did, a different look, a different ceiling to evaluate. That's why sending him back to the bench now would have been malpractice. So Sunday, when the 49ers walk into Cleveland and the dog pound roars to life, it won't just be another game in a disappointing season. It'll be the next step in a high-stakes audition. The continuation of a story that started with a draft night slide and has now turned into a second straight start. Shedeur Sanders will jog out of that tunnel again, number 12 on his chest, the weight of a franchise's questions on his shoulders. And for the first time in a long time, a city willing to believe that maybe, just maybe, they're watching the beginning of an answer. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Shedeur the real deal or just a one-game wonder? And should the Browns commit to him as their franchise quarterback moving forward? Hit that subscribe button because this story is just getting started and you're not going to want to miss what happens next.